Have you ever looked at an exam question and wondered how you can squeeze every single mark out of it? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to break down an official biology question and figure it out.
It's not always just about knowing the science. It's also about mastering the technique of the exam itself. So, let's dive right in.
So here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this 10-mark question piece by piece, just like you would in a real exam setting.
All right, the question in the spotlight today is question 3. It's from the AQA GCSE Biology Higher Tier Paper 2 from the June 2022 exam.
The first part of this question is all about analyzing this graph. What we're looking at here is how someone's blood glucose concentration changes right after they've had a meal.
Okay, let's get to it. We're going to start by really digging into the data on these graphs and see how we can bag these first few marks.
Okay, so the question is asking for a time when insulin would be high. Now, what do we know? The pancreas pumps out insulin when blood glucose gets high. So our job is to find the peak on this graph. You can see right after the meal, the glucose level shoots up, hitting its highest point somewhere between 1 and 2 hours.
And there you have it, the official answer. The examiners will give you the mark for any value you write down between 1.1 and 2.0 hours. It makes sense, right? That's the window where blood glucose is highest, which means the insulin response is going to be at its max. Next up, a 3 marker. That's our cue that we need to give 3 separate correct points. It's not just about one fact. It's about showing a clear chain of events. Let's see how the official mark scheme breaks this down.
To nail all 3 marks, you need a specific structure. Think of it like a checklist. First, what's the overall effect? Insulin lowers blood glucose. That's 1 mark. Second, how does it do that? Well, insulin tells the cells in the liver and muscles to start taking in that glucose. That's your 2nd mark. And for the 3rd point, what happens to that glucose? It gets converted into glycogen for storage. 3 clear points, 3 marks in the bag.
Okay, we're on to a new chart now. And honestly, this is just a test of can you read the axis? All we have to do is find 1.75 meters on the height axis, find 52 kilograms on the body mass axis, and see where those 2 lines cross.
And if you trace those lines, boom, it puts person A right in the middle of the underweight section. It's a pretty straightforward mark, as long as you interpret the data carefully.
For this part, we're basically just doing the reverse. We find 1.9 meters on the height axis, then we look across the band labeled healthy weight and see what weight range that covers on the bottom axis.
The mark scheme says the correct range is from 67.5 to 90 kilograms. They usually allow for a tiny bit of wiggle room when you're reading off a graph, but that's the range you're aiming for. Another mark secured, just by being accurate.
All right, we're done with graphs for a minute. Now we're moving on to a table. This is another one of those absolutely critical skills, interpreting data in different formats.
So, question 03.5 gives us this table of blood test results. We've got data for person C, and right next to it, the average for a person who doesn't have diabetes. The job here is to find 2 things in this table that suggest person C might have type 2 diabetes. Now this is a perfect example of a key exam technique. You can't just write down the numbers for person C. To get the marks, you absolutely have to use comparative language. You need to say that their glucose is higher than the mean, and their insulin is also higher than the mean. That single word, higher, is what gets you the mark. It's crucial. Okay, for the final part of this big question, we're shifting gears. We're moving away from data analysis and into applying your core biological knowledge.
This is a classic application question, isn't it? It's asking you to pull from what you've learned about lifestyle and health to come up with 2 different ways to prevent this condition.
And this is brilliant because it shows just how flexible a mark scheme can be. The obvious answers, of course, are getting more exercise or cutting back on carbs and sugar. But look closer. They'll also accept things like eat less fat. They'll even give you 1 mark for a more general answer like lose weight. Knowing this range of possibilities is a massive advantage in an exam.
So, after all of that, after picking apart that whole 10-mark question, what are the big takeaways? What are the key techniques that we've really uncovered here?
Look, these are the principles that take good knowledge and turn it into top marks. You have to read the data precisely, you have to use that specific comparative language, you have to break down those multi-mark questions into logical points, and you have to know that there's often a whole range of correct answers. That right there is the heart of great exam technique.
And that's the real goal, isn't it? Knowing the answer is one thing, but can you explain the science behind why it's the right answer? That's when you know you've truly mastered it. So keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next explainer.